Okay, so yesterday I showed you some applications of synthetic division, like how it can be used to express a polynomial as a factor of x minus alpha. So, like, what was the thing? So, given any polynomial f of x, we can express that as a function of x minus alpha. Okay, we can express that as a function of x minus alpha. Like for example, we had seen this like this kind of thing, right? So suppose this is the polynomial fx equals to a0 x to the power n plus a1 x to the power n minus 1 plus a2 x to the power n minus 2, and lastly is an. This is my polynomial, and suppose we express this way. We express this way, that a0 x minus alpha whole to the power n plus a1 x to the power alpha whole to the power n minus 1 plus a2 x to the power alpha whole to the power n minus 2, and so on up to an. So we remember what we took as a0, like let me start with this one. What was an in our case? We always took this way. Just a minute, I'll show you what we used to do. Yeah. So when I'm assuming this one, so the const like I was taking the remainders in this direction. I was taking the coefficients in this direction. That means this is my a0, this is my a1, this is my a2, this is my a3, and this is my a4. So the first remainder that was appearing, that was the last term. So why this, I'll tell you now, you'll understand. So why this? You see, suppose I am dividing fx. Suppose I am dividing fx by x minus alpha. Okay. So I can just, if I'm expressing fx in this manner, you take x minus alpha common from each term, leaving the last one. So what I'll remain with? I'll remain with a0 x minus alpha whole to the power n minus 1 plus a1 x minus alpha whole to the power n minus 2, and so on up to the last one, second last one, a n minus 1 plus a n. So you see what I am doing. Suppose fx can be written in this manner. I want to find the coefficient a0, a1, and so on. From this line, what I am doing, this is the definitely fx, right? So I am just taking out x minus alpha. I'm taking out x minus alpha common. Okay, I'm taking out x minus alpha common from each term, leaving the last one. So what do you see? It shows that this is my divisor, and the part inside is my quotient, and this is my remainder, right? This is my remainder. So the last term that comes after dividing fx by x minus alpha, that was an. So now you can see, when I am dividing fx by x minus alpha, my remainder is actually, the remainder that comes, that is actually the last coefficient. Okay. Now similarly, what was the next thing that we are doing? We are taking the quotient. So what is the quotient? Question was a0 x minus alpha whole to the power n minus 1, a1 x minus alpha whole to the power n minus 2, and so on up to an. Again, we were dividing quotient by x minus alpha. So what I'll do, I'll take x minus alpha common, and you see, so a0 x minus alpha whole to the power n minus 2, a1 x to the power x minus alpha whole to the power n minus 3, and so on. The last one is a sorry, this was a n minus 1, so this is a n minus 2, and I cannot take x minus alpha common from the last one, so a n minus 1. So now this is my new quotient and this is my new remainder. So this was this term, the which was appearing in the second last term. Like, I'll just tell you, just a minute, yeah. So I'll just tell you, dividing in this manner, so this was my constant term, you see, and this was my second last term, and we can apply this process again and again to get this term, and this term. So did you get my point? Why synthetic division works that way? Like how it can be used to express a polynomial as a function of x minus alpha. So we may continue this process again and again to get the result. So this is all from synthetic division. So you remember, when can you apply synthetic division? What are the applications? So those things. Now today I'll start something called as highest common factor, HCF of polynomials. So you know what is a HCF? It's highest common factor, or also called as GCD, greatest common divisor. So we have done this for what I call as integers. We have calculated the HCF for integers, etc. So HCF of polynomials. So whenever you know what is the meaning of a HCF, before defining HCF, we define something called a CF, the common factor. So what is a common factor? Like whenever a number, I'm talking about numbers first, then I'll go to a polynomial. So whenever a number divides two numbers, like if C divides, I'll write it here first of all. If C divides A as well as C divides B, then we say that C is a common factor of both A and B. Okay, that is, C is factor of both A and B, and because it is a factor of both A and B, it is known as a common factor. We take all the common factors, we take the greatest one. So that is known as the greatest common factor or greatest common divisor or highest common factor. There are so many names for it. Similarly, we have the HCF of polynomials. Okay, so HCF of polynomial is again the same. Like suppose this polynomial fx divides gx as well as fx divides hx. Then we say that fx is a common factor of both gx and hx. Okay, if fx divides gx and fx divides hx, we say that fx is a common factor of both gx and hx. Now here is no concept of greater, right? Like I said here, the greatest of all the common factors will be called as the greatest common divisor. But how do you take the greatest of polynomials? Which polynomial is greater? We don't know about that. Like there is no concept defined for greatest polynomial or lowest polynomial, something like that. But degree is defined, right? So we take all such polynomials which divides gx and hx both. The one with the highest degree will be called the HCF of polynomials gx and hx. So we take all the common factors of gx and hx. Okay, then we, from that collection, we take the one having the highest degree. That is known as your highest common factor. Am I clear up to here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, there is a slight difference between HCF of numbers and HCF of polynomials. You know that HCF of numbers is unique. That means, like the GCD of 2 and 4 is 2, and no other number can be the GCD of 2 and 4. But in case of polynomials, this is not true. So we write something. HCF is unique. I'm talking about polynomials. HCF is unique up to the multiplication by a non-zero number. By a non-zero number. So you remember this point. This is very, very important. Actually, this is a part of abstract algebra you'll study. You'll study in ring theory, like in an integral domain, you will talk about GCD and so on. Okay, so that I'm not discussing, but remember one thing: HCF of polynomials is unique up to the multiplication by a non-zero number. Like for example, suppose x minus 2 divides fx and x minus 2 divides gx as well, and no other polynomial divides both fx and gx. Then we say that HCF of fx comma gx is x minus 2. Okay, but even if somebody writes like this, HCF of fx comma gx is 2x minus 2, that's all right. What I have written, HCF is unique up to the multiplication by a non-zero number. So all that these two, like this both can be said as a HCF of fx and gx. Okay, so it is unique up to the multiplication of a non-zero number. We will say HCF is unique, but you can multiply by any non-zero number. You can also write HCF of fx comma gx equals to 5x minus 2 or half x minus 2, anything. You can multiply the HCF by any number. Did you get my point? So even if you write this, even if you write this, even if you write this, there is no harm in your answer. Like HCF is this itself. So remember this point. Remember this point that HCF is unique up to the multiplication by a non-zero number. Did you get my point? Any confusion? Okay, so there is again two methods for finding the HCF. The first method being simply you can if you can factorize fx and gx both, you take the common factor. Suppose, like what I mean by this, suppose fx is this polynomial, fx equals to x minus 2 whole square, x plus 3, x minus 5 whole cube. This is your polynomial fx, and suppose another polynomial gx is this, x minus 2, x plus 3 whole square, x minus 5 whole square. So suppose you have factorized fx and gx in this manner. Can you tell me what is the HCF of these two polynomials? What will be the HCF of these two polynomials?
X minus 2 into x plus 3 into x minus 5.
X minus 5 whole square. Right?
That is x to the 5 to the power 1 and x to the 5 to the power 2, right?
No, this is 3 and this is 2, so the highest of this, no? So you see here, when you can factorize, what you do, like, you know, x minus 2 will divide both, you will take that product, x plus 3 will divide both, you will take that in your HCF, and x minus 5 whole square will divide both. So the product will divide fx and gx, and this is the HCF. I'll not say the HCF, but a HCF of fx and gx. You can also write 2 here, 5 inverse, say anything. Right? So this is a HCF of fx and gx. So one method is this, that when you can factorize the polynomials, you can find the HCF directly. This way. Like when fx and gx are both second degree polynomials, or second degree polynomials, a quadratic polynomial, then what you can do, you can factorize them if factorizable by middle term factorization. Then you take the common factors are the HCF, or the product will be the HCF, right? But in general, it is not very easy to factorize a polynomial. Like if I give you a third degree polynomial or a fifth degree polynomial, you cannot factorize that easily, right? So in that case, we will use the Euclid's algorithm, that long division method, to find the HCF. Okay. So let me give you a question. So what is the question? Find the HCF. Find the HCF of fx equals to, so what is my fx? Fx equals to x to the power 5 minus x to the power 4 minus 2x cubed plus x minus 1, and my gx equals to 5x to the power 4 minus 4x cubed minus 6x square plus 4x plus 1. That's 1. So I have to find the HCF of these two polynomials. I want to find the HCF of these two polynomials. So what we will do, we will divide fx by gx just because the degree of degree of gx is less than the degree of fx. Right? We cannot divide fx by gx, but we can definitely divide gx by fx. Okay, so your first step is to divide fx by gx. Your first step will be to divide fx by gx. Just we used to do in that case. In case of numbers, we take the larger number and divide by a smaller number, and whatever remainder you get, you again take that as a divisor and the previous divisor as your dividend, etc. That way. Okay. Now, when I divide gx by fx, like here I have to write what? X to the power 5 minus x to the power 4 and so on. I'll write fx here, I'll write gx here, right? Now which number will you multiply? What will be the first term of the quotient? What will be the first term of the quotient?
5x.
Not 5x, but 1 by 5x.
X by 5.
Yeah, that is 1 by 5x.
So
or
you
x by
can
5x.
multiply the dividend by 5.
Exactly. This is what I wanted to say. What Gaurav said is exactly correct. So you see, we are making calculations very difficult. When you are taking this as the part of the question, all your things will come in fraction and very hectic to deal with. But we will use this result because the SCF is unique up to the multiplication by a non-zero number. We can multiply by non-zero number at any step, and that will not harm our SCF. So what I'll do first, I'll multiply fx by 5 throughout, and then we'll find the SCF of fx and gx. So remember, this property helps us to find SCF in an easy manner. At any step, you can multiply by some number or divide by some non-zero number. Okay, multiply and divide by some non-zero number. So let me start finding the SCF in the correct way. So you may just write down all the coefficients of fx are multiplied by 5. All the coefficients of fx are multiplied by 5, and then division algorithm is applied. Division. So before applying the division algorithm, I'll first multiply fx by 5. Division algorithm is applied. So let's apply the division algorithm. So firstly, I'll write down the coefficient of fx after multiplying by 5. We just check once. So it was 5 x to the power 5. Then the second term was minus 1, so that will become minus 5. The third term was minus 2, so this will become minus 10 x square plus, x cube. So x cube, remember that, okay? Minus 10 x cube did I make a mistake? How many terms are there? Just a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I wrote a wrong question. So sorry about that. Fx was x to the power 5 minus x to the power 4 minus 2x cube plus 2x square was also there, okay? Plus 2x square was also there. So just do a correction. Plus 2x square plus x minus 1. Yeah. So x to the power 5 minus x to the power 4 minus 2x cube plus 2x squared plus x minus 1 was there. Okay, so I don't think I'll be able to fit this one properly. 5x to the power 5 minus 5x to the power 4 minus 10, then plus 5 yeah, so plus 10 x square. I'm not able to fit it properly. Achha, just a minute, let me write gx first. Let me write gx first. What is gx? 5x to the power 4 minus 4x cube minus 6x square plus 4x plus 1 plus 4x plus 1. I'll just write a division like this. Okay, how to fit this one properly? Anyways, I'll try to fit here itself. So what it was 5x to the power 5 minus 5x to the power 4 minus 10x cube plus 10x square plus 5 minus 5. So plus 5x minus 5. Please try to see that. You can do it by yourself. Just multiply fx by 5 and I'm writing gx here. Now what is the first term? The first term of the question will be 5x. So multiply gx by 5x. So this will become 5x to the power 5 minus 4. 4 5 is 20. 4 5 is 20 x4 minus 5 6 is 30 x cube plus 4 5 is 20 x square. Did I get it? Yeah.
So will that be 5x or just x?
Oh. So sorry. I'm getting confused. Yeah. Thank you. So this will be not, yeah. So sorry. This will not be 5x. It will be just x, right? So 5 x to the power 5 minus 4. You just increase all the powers. 4x to the power 4 minus 6x cube plus 4x square plus x. Yeah. You can just subtract and see what is coming. So 5x cube minus 5x to the power 5 minus 5x to the power 5, that will get cancelled. Minus 5x to the power 4 plus, so this will become minus x to the power 4. Then I will get here minus 4x cube plus 6x square. How much? Plus 4x minus 5. So take your time and just see whether you are getting this or not. Minus 1, minus 4, 6, 4, minus 5. I am getting something like that. Just check once. So next, what I'll do, again I'll multiply quotient by 5. Yeah, sorry, the remainder by 5. I cannot divide. I can divide, but again the same problem. I have to take here 1 by 5, so that will again make calculations difficult. So what I'll do, I'll multiply each term by 5. Okay, I can multiply each term by 5. You can also multiply by minus 5 if you want. So what I'll do, this will become minus 5x to the power 4 minus 20x cube, 6 5 is 30 x square, 4 5 is 20x, 5 5 is 25. So minus 5 minus 20, 30, 20 minus 25. So now again what I'll do, I have to take here minus 1, right? So minus 1, I will just multiply qx, the divisor, by minus 1. So this will become minus 5x to the power 4 plus 4x cube plus 6x square minus 4x minus 1. I should be very patient about doing these sums. Otherwise I'll make a mistake. So what will I get if I change the sign? Plus, minus, minus, plus, plus. So if this gets cancelled for sure, so what I'm remaining with, minus, I don't have a space there, I'll just shift here, so this will become minus 24 x cube minus 24 sorry, plus 24x square plus 24x minus 24, right? So minus 24 plus 24 plus 24 minus 24. So what I'll do, you can actually take 24 common, right? As I said, we can multiply or divide by a non-zero number. So I can divide here by 24. So here I actually multiplied by 5, and here what I'll do, I'll divide by 24. So what will my coefficients be? What will my coefficients be? It will be minus x cube plus x square plus x minus 1. This is my coefficient. Just have a look up to here, then we'll go next. So even if you want to suppress this minus, you can also do that without any hesitation, because I was, so first thing you see, I'll again remove this minus also, so multiplying by minus 1, because I don't need the first term containing the minus. Even if you continue with this also, you'll get the same answer. That is my guarantee to you. Okay, even if you start with this one, you'll get the same answer. But though, what I'll do, I'll just free the first term from the negative. Now see here, I cannot divide anymore because the degree of the remainder has come less than the degree of the divisor. So what was the Euclid's algorithm? Now my next divisor will be this, and my next dividend will be this. So what I have to do, I have to divide this question by this remainder. So I'll take the remainder here, I'll take the remainder here, and I'll take the divisor here. So the question, that will be my divisor. Right, this is my, so the first term will be 5x again. So I'll write here 5x and start dividing. So this will become 5x to the power 4 minus 5x square minus, sorry, x cube, 5x square plus 5x. So if I subtract them, minus plus plus minus, this got cancelled. So this is, I'm getting with how much? 5 minus 4 is 1, x cube plus, no, minus x square minus x plus 1. You see, exactly the remainder, exactly the question has come here. Sorry, the divisor has come here. So plus 1, I'll get x cube minus x square minus x plus 1. If I change the signs, I'll get here 0, right? So what is the HCF? The last non-zero remainder. So the remainder is 0 here. So what was the last non-zero remainder? This one, or you can also write this one, doesn't matter. So, or the last divisor, you can also say. So this is my HCF. This polynomial is my HCF of both the polynomials fx and gx. So what is my HCF? So therefore the HCF of fx comma gx is which polynomial? It was x cube minus x square plus x minus 1. It was like this now. Let me check. X cube minus x square minus x plus 1. So sorry. It was minus x plus 1. So this is all HCF. Always remember, you can also multiply by minus. You can multiply by 2x. No, sorry, not 2x. 2. You can multiply by 2. You can multiply by 5. But we'll keep the answer here. So this is HCF of fx and gx. So this HCF will be required later on when we talk about multiple roots. We'll see that multiple roots are those which are the roots of the HCF. So later on I'll discuss the theory. So you should be able to find the HCF now, either by the method of factorization. So that is not always useful because factorizing polynomials are not that easy, or the long-term division. So this will be easy method to find the HCF of two polynomials. Okay. So this is the part of polynomials. Now I'll start a few more things. Now what is the meaning of an algebraic equation? Okay. algebraic equation. So let me state the definition. Let fx be a polynomial. Now you have a very good idea what I mean by a polynomial. Let fx be a polynomial in x. So the variable is x of degree greater or equals to 1. So minimum, I am not talking about a constant polynomial or zero polynomial. I am talking about those polynomial whose degree is at least 1, okay, whose coefficients are real or complex. So it may be real or it may be complex numbers. The coefficient of the polynomial may be from the field R or from the field C numbers. Okay, so this, I have some polynomial, then fx equals to 0 is said to be an algebraic equation. An algebraic equation. Okay, or a polynomial equation definitely. So our whole aim of study now shifts to algebraic equation. So whenever I have a polynomial, I equate that to 0. So such an equation is known as an algebraic equation. So you know, we have been doing few algebraic equations since lower classes, like you know about a linear equation. Okay, you know about a linear equation. So what was linear equation? An equation of degree 1. So of the form a0x plus a1 equals to 0, provided a0 is not 0, the leading coefficient cannot be 0. So this is also an algebraic equation. Okay, when I talk about degree 2, which was called as quadratic equation, so I'll just write that an algebraic equation of degree 2 is like this: a0 x square plus a1 x plus a2 equals to 0, provided a0 not equals to 0. So an algebraic equation of degree 2 is this, and is called as, you all very well know the name of this, something known as quadratic equation, right? So we have been dealing with algebraic equations in lower studies. At least this too we have done. What I mean by a linear equation? So an algebraic equation of degree 1 is called a linear equation, and an algebraic equation of degree 2 is called as a quadratic equation, right? Similarly, when I have the degree 3, that is known as a cubic equation. Degree 4 is known as a biquadratic equation, and degree 5 will be called a quintic equation. So our whole aim of study is now to study lots of things about this kind of equations. Okay, about this kind of equations. So often I'll be using the term just equations to mean I'm talking about algebraic equation. So I'll drop this term algebraic. I'll simply say fx is an equation. That means you always assume I'm talking about algebraic equation. There is some polynomial, I'm equating that to 0. Okay, now next we have the definition of a root. This also you all know very well what is the meaning of a root. So let fx equals to 0 be an algebraic equation if f alpha equals to 0 for some value alpha belonging to either real number or complex number, then alpha is said to be alpha is said to be a root of fx, right? Fx equals to 0, root of the equation fx equals to 0. So this is the definition of a root. You all should know very well. So whenever I have an algebraic equation for some value of x, say alpha, so if I'm replacing all the x in that algebraic equation by alpha and it gets satisfied, then we say that alpha is a root or a solution. Also, roots are also called as solution of the equation fx equals to 0. So for example, if I take this equation, suppose take this equation, x square minus 5x plus 6 equals to 0. So this is an algebraic equation of degree 2. Suppose this is my fx equals to 0. So what are the roots of this one? So you may solve a quadratic, so let me check. So let me put here 2. Let me put here 2. So if I am putting a 2 here, so 2 square minus 5 into 2 plus 6. What I am getting? 4 minus 10 plus 6. I am getting equals to 0. So you see here that 2 is a root of x square minus 5x plus 6 equals to 0. So 2 is the root of this algebraic equation, because when I am putting 2 in this polynomial equation or an algebraic equation, I am getting things satisfied. Our whole aim of study is to find the roots of an algebraic equation. So this is our name of the subject, theory of equations. So we are now interested only in this kind of algebraic equations, and we want to find the roots of some algebraic equations. So for degree 1 and 2, we have already studied everything. We know how to find the roots. We know all other things required, right? For a quadratic equation also, either we know a midterm factorization method to find the roots, or we have something called as the quadratic formula, minus b plus minus root over a b square minus 4ac by 2a. So you give me any quadratic equation, I can always find the root. But there is no such general formula for, like, there is a general formula for cubic equation, but that's too complex to remember, very tough. Even a 4th degree one has some formula, but very, very tough to remember. But it has been proved in abstract algebra that any quintic equation, that means an equation whose degree is more than 5, greater or equals to 5, cannot have some formula to find the root. So there is a thing. So there is no general way of finding a root for an algebraic equation of higher degree. Suppose a degree 5, suppose a degree 6. Even for a degree 3 and 4, it becomes very difficult to find the roots. Okay? So the whole aim of study will be to find the roots of a cubic, biquadratic, quintic equation, etc., etc. Now, there comes a question which I'll discuss for the last thing today. So there comes a question: will the root always exist? Like, if I give you any algebraic equation, what is the guarantee that the root will exist? How can I guarantee that, like, this is a very simple question. Will the root exist? If I give you any equation, will the root exist? So the last example that I showed you, here the root is existing. The root is 2. So question is, if I give you any polynomial of any degree, so if you consider the algebraic equation corresponding to that is fx equals to 0, so will the root always exist? The answer is yes, and it is given by a fundamental theorem of classical algebra. So let me state that for today, and that will be our last topic for today. So what is the fundamental theorem of classical algebra? So let me state that very precisely. Fundamental theorem of classical algebra. Of classical algebra. So what does this theorem says? A very strong words that it says that every algebraic equation has a root. So it guarantees you that any algebraic equation will have at least one root. Has a root means at least one root. That root may be real or complex. So this is the statement of the fundamental theorem of classical algebra. Every algebraic equation has a root. Has a root means has at least one root, real or complex. So you give me any algebraic equation that definitely has a root. This is what the fundamental theorem of classical algebra says. So we'll only deal about the statement of fundamental theorem, not the proof. So that's all for today from my side. If you have any confusion, feel free to ask. Thank you.